We're excited to bring you, the most games out of anyone in the entire state every week. Guarantee we're going to be out there on the gridiron, covering your kids, your friends, even yourselves, and bringing the 2014 high school football season to you here on High School Rewind.
Absolutely. And the best part is you don't have to sit down for 3 hours and try to suffer through bad commentary and everything that can happen with that. With High School Rewind, we go from play to play. You do have commentary, but it's just to help keep things going for you, and even graphics to keep you in the middle of the game, and you can enjoy all of the plays and not have to worry about all the delays.
That's right. It's absolutely fantastic, and excited to do it for you one more time.
So after our PSA, let's get right into this. Dane, last year, this was all about Bingham. Bingham was the team to beat. Bingham came out and did their job. They win the 5A state championship. Coach Peck picks up another title, another ring on his hand, and what an outstanding team, and they return a lot of talent coming into this year.
Boy, they sure do. And right now, there are those programs that are just kind of on autopilot. Bingham's one of them. And last year we
Coach
talked
Peck, no autopilot. Coach Peck.
Well, yeah, no offense, but just saying, that's a team that reloads every
Absolutely.
year. And it seems like every year they lose a lot of talent, and every year they've got guys coming right in, just ready to pick it up and keep running with it. And last year, such a difficult Region 3. We talked about in our preview and obviously covered it throughout the year. That Bingham team had no problem going through Region 3 all the way to the state title. And yeah, as you mentioned, an early favorite here in the state of Utah, top 25 nationally to start the season. So a lot of expectations in South Jordan.
We'll get into a couple of games that really have to look forward to with Bingham High School. Should be a lot of fun. A power, Dane, that really we don't expect a whole lot from. And if Coach Bob Stevens can turn things around, I picked them to win the state championship a year ago. Got into the playoffs, but they lose so much talent, not just in graduation, but so many young players that went to Corner Canyon High School, whom we'll talk about in the 4A preview. If you want to go download that as well. So much of that talent moved down to that new school in Draper, and this could be a tough year for Coach Stevens and the Hawks.
It really could. Looking at those two teams, Alta and Corner Canyon, again, we'll address Corner Canyon in the 4A. Alta lost everybody, Corner Canyon returns everybody. You kind of see the dynamic of that new school coming in and the effect that it's having on the Alta Hawks program. They return Quinn Fabrizio, and that's a really good thing for the Hawks. He is a solid player on the defensive side of the ball. But you look at everyone they lost on the offensive side, Chipper Lucero,
Mac Richards,
Sansom, right? I mean, they lost a lot of guys. There's going to be a lot of questions about that offense coming into this season. And Region 3, not going to be as tough as last year, but still not an easy region with Brighton and, of course, Bingham.
Absolutely. You talk about the Brighton Bengals. They made it to the state championship a year ago. They returned the top recruit in the state of Utah, one of the top recruits in the western United States, and Mr. Osa Messina. Dane, you're high on this kid. Outstanding running back, a very good linebacking prospect as well. Yeah. He and Coach Bullitt are going to have to carry the Bengals to their first state championship. They have been the bridesmaid so many times, and looking to become the bride this year, becoming the champion in the 5A classification. They got a long road to hoe, but they have a lot of talent coming back.
And you're right. Osa, I love Osa. I've loved him since his sophomore season. This is his senior year. And the beautiful thing about Brighton, at least for Brighton fans, is they return so much talent. You have Robbie Hutchins under center. Yep. You have Drew Jensen coming back. It gives them kind of that speed option at the quarterback position. Osa Messina back. And I'll tell you what, Osa, this is his senior year. They're going to be just fine out of the backfield because Sione Hemuli Lund. Watch for this kid, just a sophomore, already on college radars. This kid is a big, powerful back, lot of speed. That's going to be a really fun backfield. And then, of course, on the defensive side, Osa Messina, as you mentioned, he's actually, on some recruiting sources, the number 2 outside linebacker in the country. And then you have guys like Moofy Hunt, a lot of talent on both ends of the ball. Cody Barton, younger brother of Jackson Barton, committed to the U. So this is a team that's really loaded with talent.
And Moofy Hunt is a name to remember.
Yeah.
This young man is going to be an outstanding prospect, one of the top prospects in the state of Utah already. He's going to hold a lot of different offers by the end of the year. This is a young man that will be skyrocketing boards here in the state of Utah towards the middle and end of the year. It should be a lot of fun to see the Brighton Bengals. And Dan, we talked about a few teams. Let's talk about a couple of sleeper teams. Who would be some of the sleeper teams we can look out for in the 5A classification?
Boy, I've got a couple for you. I've been waiting for this moment for a while. Let me start way up north. I like the Weber Warriors. I think this year you could see Weber make the playoffs out of Region 1, and there's a couple reasons for that. Region 1, I think you're going to see some interesting, we talked about coaching changes, one of the biggest coaching
biggest
changes.
One, and the shocker.
Davis Darts got an intern coach for this season.
Tyler Gladwell, who was a quarterback at Weber State, former head coach at Bonneville.
But Ryan Bishop is gone, so you have a coaching change at Davis, and that happened very, very late. It'll be interesting to see if that affects the team at all. But Northridge lost a lot of kids up north. Layton lost a lot of kids up north. Syracuse returns a lot. I actually think they're going to be the favorite in Region 1. But Weber returns a lot of kids, and they were very close last year, including returning a big quarterback, Cole Dean. He may be the best quarterback in Region 1. I think this year Weber can make the playoffs out of Region 1.
Not just winning the head on the stick.
That's right.
But they're going to get into the playoffs. And that's a good one. Any other teams we can expect to move up or down?
I think you're going to see a couple teams kind of return to prominence. Cottonwood's going to be one of them. I think in Region 2, Cottonwood's going to be very, very good. I think Hunter, they're finally going to win the Region 2.
That is a sleeper team in my mind, too.
Yeah, I think they're going to be really tough. They return everybody. Medlinger's back. They do lose Nathan Uhe, but everybody else comes back on that team, including a very, very good Noah Togiai. Going to be a very good team.
And there's
out
a
of
sleeper
Region 2.
recruit as well. This kid's an absolute athlete. We'll have to know about the academics. That stuff we're not privy to.
Yeah.
But if the academics are right, this is a young man that could find himself within the state of Utah or somewhere else playing football with an opportunity to move up. A lot of raw ability with that young man.
Certainly. I do think the door's a little open in Region 3 as well for like a Copper Hills. Are they going to be able to get that win against Alta? We talked about how much talent Alta loses. Is that going to be a year that maybe you see someone come up? We haven't even mentioned Jordan yet. In Region 3, they're going to be plenty good with Kafensis back. But I think there's a lot of opportunities for some teams that you're not real familiar with. I mean, Hillcrest, new coach, right? Could
an
see
exciting
them
coach as well.
Pull a number 4 seed out of that Region 2. I think this year, when it's all said and done, I think you're going to see some teams make the playoffs that haven't been in the playoffs in a while.
Let's look at Region 4. This was the funnest race of any race in both 4A and 5A classification. So much talent leaves Region 4. Baron Gajkowski is now up in Logan, going to hopefully play quarterback up there, have opportunities. So they're going to be replacing quarterbacks at Lone Peak. But Coach Hamilton, now in year 3 at Pleasant Grove, had a nice upset win in the playoffs, lost to Jordan. We'll get to the Beat Diggers in a moment because we're going to talk about Austin Confessus. But this is a region, Dane, that has so much change. Harriman, only in their second year in 5A, they could be the favorite within Region 4.
And I really think they are behind the big Andre James offensive line, verbal to UCLA. This kid had offers from a lot of
everybody.
Schools. Yeah, I mean, this kid could go wherever. And, they lose Brandon Farmer. I think that's going to be big. But they do return some experience in that backfield. And honestly, I think we saw this a little bit with Brighton last year. That offensive line for the Bengals was just so tough. And it's why they really dominated a lot of teams. I think Harriman's really going to rely on their offensive line this year, led by Andre James. And I think they're going to be a very, very tough out in Region 4. If they don't win the region, I'd be shocked if they finish anything lower than a number 2.
And Coach Pierce likes to run the football. Yeah. He's a power running team. What he does different than anybody else, because we did so many Harriman games last year. If it's a non-region game, his starting quarterback probably won't see the field. If it's a region game, then everybody's out there. Yeah. And it's very interesting. But it's a power running team that plays good defense, but pounds of football. It's a ground and pound school, and that should be a lot of fun. And then this team that I keep going back to, and I think there's 2, and it's one of the best rivalry probably in that region is AF and PG. Those are 2 teams that will be battling out, not just for the top, but really, in my mind, to battle out to get to the semifinals.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see those 2. I was a little down last year on PG, and Coach Hamilton, I apologize right now.
I told him year 2.
You proved me wrong, and I apologize. That's going to be a good PG team. They return 9 starters. They do lose some key guys for them, but they return some experience. What was a very good team last year. I think they're going to contend. American Fork, like you mentioned, they return a lot of guys as well. They've got Katoa coming back, right? They've got their quarterback coming back. They've got a lot of nice pieces that are kind of coming back. I think Region 4, you mentioned last year, it was a 4-way tie for first, right? I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal. I think that's going to be a really fun challenge in Region 4 to watch all year long.
Now, one of the things to really look forward to is when Riley Nelson left in 2005 and Dane and I broke into the high school scene, he broke every single record in the state record books. All those things could be wiped away. I never thought I would see the day that what Riley Nelson did in 2005, which was miraculous in the state of Utah, could all be gone. Career stats, single season stats, Austin Confensis has gone after. This young man is now in his 4th year starting at Jordan High School. Been to the semifinals and championship games every year, and now is in his year where he is going to go break every record. And this young man that we can really celebrate. We talk about he's going to go to Wisconsin, go play for Coach Gary Anderson. We're still not quite sure, safety, quarterback, what Coach A is going to do with him. But Confensis returning to Jordan. What can we expect from the Jordan Beat Diggers and certainly Austin Confensis?
I think Jordan's going to be tough. I think that's going to be a very tough team, mainly because of Kafensis. Now, he loses a lot of help.
Loses
as
Clay
well.
Moss and Mason Kruger.
And Kruger. You know, that was the big one. Jordan last year, Kruger was a little late to the team last year. Remember, he was going to drop football, focus on baseball. Out of the gate, Jordan, they just didn't quite look the same. Kruger comes back in, and all of a sudden you've got that explosive offense back. They're going to need to find weapons around Kafensis to make a serious run this year. I feel really good at saying they're going to finish top 3 in Region 3, and they could even finish second. You know, if they get a victory over Brighton,
that's going to be a game to have circled.
That's going to be a great game. But if they can find, you know, a couple players to support, and they return some nice guys. Excuse me here, Cooper Clark. That kid is an absolute stud.
3-year starter. He was a freshman.
He is coming back for Jordan, going to be huge. And then a couple of players that were, you know, they weren't the top receivers last year for Jordan, but they played and they have experience, and that being A.J. Townsend and Taylor Johnson. So there is some experience coming back. I'm not sure that it's Mason Kruger experience, but there are going to be some weapons there that Kafensis can use to get that offense going, and he's probably going to have to. They're going to need to score a lot of points this year to win ball games.
They're going to have to, and then they have the last couple years. A little bit more offense, a little less defense, where you have guys like Clay Moss playing both sides of the ball, and that's such a huge loss. Probably my favorite running back I've watched in a number of years, and Mr. Clay Moss being gone, and Dane, that's going to be a lot of fun. Now let's talk about some of the fun matchups we're going to have. Regions are going to be a lot of fun. Brighton, Bingham, that's going to be an absolute brawl up at the jungle up at Brighton High School. Jordan at Bingham, Jordan and Brighton, all those different things. But the fun game, Dane, that we get in week 2 of the season, maybe week 3, pardon me, I'm scheduling through my head, is going to be Bingham at Bishop Gorman. This is not just a game for the state of Utah. This is a nationally prominent game. Number 1 in the country versus number 23. This is going to be a lot of fun. Coach Dave Peck has talked about all the returning players coming back, most of them not on offense. They lose Mr. Nichols, who was an absolute stud for the Bingham Miners. Is what that offensive line is going to be able to do. But Bingham heads down to Henderson and going to have to take on a very, very, very explosive and talented Gales.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I absolutely love, and I think it's so valuable, especially as they hit late in the season, those teams who are willing to schedule the tough non-region games, right? You have Bingham who's, hey, you know what, we're going to go on the road, and we're going to play the number 1 team in the country. And think about all the experience and all the prep that gives them. You know, when they went down to Trinity, Texas a couple of years ago, how valuable that game was for them as that season wore on. And granted, you know, rules are a little different, and there's some adjustment
we
there.
saw that firsthand.
We saw that there. But what great experience to go up against, you know, one of the best teams in the country and really give yourself a measuring stick, let your kids know where you are, and then, you know, give yourself the ability to really rely back on that as the season comes. You know, when you have to face off against Brighton, who may be their biggest test this season, that you have that experience when you've been behind, or you've been, you know, really in the heat of the battle, and you've come out of that, you know. And so what great experience for the Miners to go down and do that. And I think it's going to be real pivotal for them this season, win or lose, to get that experience, because it's probably not going to be a cakewalk this year through 5A.
Well, think about it. When they went down to Trinity, that was an eye-opening experience. But since then, they've welcomed the best team from Idaho. They've gone and played the best teams in Colorado, had them at their place. These kids now coming into this program are used to having a game like this. So it'll be really, really cool to see Bingo down. We expect them to compete. Coach Peck talked about that defense is going to have to lead them. He thinks they'll be good enough to even keep the Gales at a low-scoring game and allow his offense to grow and to get better. And it'll be a lot of fun to see what happens there.
Yeah, and it's just fun. It's also fun, even if you're not a Bingham fan, it's fun to have a local team in top 25, right? It seems like the last couple of years they've been in that conversation at various points during the season, but a local team that can compete with those national teams and is willing to do so. What great representation for the state of Utah in general, and for, you know, Utah high school football. It's going to be really fun to watch. You mentioned week 3 it is, September 5th, and that's going to be an absolute blast of a game.
It will be. All right, Dan, let's get into the predictions. Who is our 5A state champion?
You know, did I pick Brighton last year? I think I did. I don't remember if I did or not. I think this year.
I thought you took Bingham.
Did I?
You took Bingham, and I think I took Alta.
Okay.
Well, I know I took Alta.
I couldn't remember if I took Brighton or not. I know I picked a Region 3. I think this is probably Brighton's year to repeat. I think they're just so physical, and they have a way to control the game and take away what the other team wants to do. And I think that's so key when you get in the playoffs, you get late season. This is a team that's built to run the ball. Every year they're built to run the ball. They're built to eat up time. They're built to keep the other offense off the field. I just think this year Bingham return enough kids, enough talent is there. They're just going to be really, really tough in 5A. I expect the Miners to repeat as state champions.
You know, it's very rare that a player from Bingham goes under the radar as far as recruiting. But Danny Longview, this young man that can find himself playing middle linebacker at any of the schools within the state of Utah. He's a hard hitter. We'll have some stuff. You can go back and watch that Brighton game from last year. He ate Osa Messina alive in that game. For me, I'm always going to go upset, always. And it has nothing to do with my lack of respect for Coach Peck. I love Coach Peck. I rarely pick the Miners. I'm going to go with Brighton. I really think this is going to be the year for Coach Bullitt and the Bengals. Dane and I have talked a lot. This is probably a shocker to him, but I do think Osa Messina and crew, there's going to be so much firepower. I think Coach Bullitt learned a lot from a year ago. And you got to let these guys go. You got to let them do their thing and kind of get in the new age of football, just being open with what's going on. And I think Messina and the Bengals are going to get it done and take the 5A state championship this year.
They have the talent to do it. And you know, if there's any team that can really, well, I don't want to say any because there are a couple teams, but Brighton certainly has the talent to do it. Talk about all the talent returning. And, you know, even you think of that game last year against Harriman in the playoffs for Brighton. They were down late, make a late drive to take the lead. They hold off. A late push by Harriman. Certainly a learning experience for them. It'll be fun to see as this all unravels.
Well, the season is upon us. We thank you for joining us for our 5A preview. Always remember, the most coverage in the state of Utah for high school sports is right here on Xfinity On Demand, brought to you by High School Rewind. Dane Stewart, myself, Stephen Cruz, and our crew will be all over the Wasatch Front going to the best games that the state has to offer and bringing it to you here in abbreviated format. Get commentary from all of us and get a chance to watch the game without having to take your whole evening to do so. A 3-hour affair brought down inside of an hour. It is a lot of fun. We hope you'll join us. We hope you've enjoyed our 5A preview show. For Dane Stewart, Vince Francis, Bill Francis, I'm Dusty Litster. Thanks for joining us.